Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. The organization that has measured this on thousands of learners puts all three in the same difficulty group with the same number of hours. Not similar, the same. So the question in the title does not have an answer, and anybody who gives you one confidently is guessing. But there is a real question underneath it, and it does have an answer, so let me swap them over. The real question is not which is easiest, it is which one gives you the most back for the same efforts. And on that, the three are not tied at all. They differ enormously on three things: how many people you can actually use it with, how easy it is to hear at the start, and how much beginner material exists to learn from. I will go through all three, then the thing that makes this decision different from every other language choice, which is that these three are close enough to partly give you each other. And at the end, the specific situations where Italian or Portuguese is clearly the right answer, because for some people it is, and I would rather say so. First, reach, and I am going to describe this rather than throw numbers at you, because the speaker counts get quoted very loosely and I only trust the one I checked. Spanish is the everyday language of about 20 countries spread across 2 continents. According to the Instituto Cervantes, its 2025 report counts more than 520 million native speakers. Portuguese is shaped completely differently. It is dominated by one very large country, Brazil, plus Portugal and several countries in Africa. That is a lot of people, but it is concentrated, which means its usefulness depends much more sharply on where you are and who you know. And Italian is essentially one country. That is not an insult, it is the shape of the thing and it changes what it is for. Nobody sensible learns Italian for reach. They learn it for Italy, and that is a completely legitimate reason that has nothing to do with any of these comparisons. And this is the one that actually affects your first 3 months. How easy is each one to hear? Spanish and Italian are both extremely kind here. Both have small, clean vowel systems, both are written almost exactly as they are said, and in both of them you can read a word you have never seen and pronounce it correctly. That is a genuine gift, and those two share it almost equally. Casa, mesa, ventana, camino. Portuguese is the hard one of the 3 for the ear, and it is worth knowing before you choose rather than after. It has nasal vowels that English does not have, and in the Brazilian and especially the European varieties, a lot of vowels get reduced or swallowed, so words do not arrive with the clean edges Spanish gives you. On paper, Portuguese looks easy to a Spanish speaker. In the air, it is a different experience, which produces a well-known and slightly unfair situation. A Portuguese speaker will generally understand the Spanish speaker more easily than the other way around. The writing is close enough to read across. The sound is not close enough to hear across. Third, and this one decides more outcomes than anybody admits, how much material exists at the level where you will actually be. This is not close. Spanish has an enormous amount of material made specifically for beginners at every level, most of it free. Italian has a decent amount. Portuguese has noticeably less, and what exists skews towards people who already speak Spanish. That matters more than it sounds, because the thing that actually gets you fluent is hours of material pitched just above your level. If that material is scarce at the beginner stage, you spend your first year fighting to find things to listen to instead of listening to them. Availability is not a minor convenience, it is most of the difficulty in practice. Now the part that makes this particular choice different from every other language decision, and it is genuinely good news. 3 are close relatives. Learning one properly hands you a large discount on the others. Here is the same sentence in all 3, and I will only say the Spanish one out loud, because I am not going to fake an Italian or a Portuguese accent at you. La casa es grande y bonita. You did not need to know any of the other 2. That is the discount, and it means this is not a decision about what you give up. It is a decision about what you start with, because whichever one you choose first makes the next one dramatically cheaper. And that is exactly why you should not do 2 of them at once. They are close enough to blend, and at the beginner stage the near identical words are the ones that get tangled. Sequence them and the similarity is a gift. Run them in parallel and the same similarity is the problem. Now, that discount is real, but it comes with a bill, and it is worth seeing the bill before you assume the second language is nearly free. Because these 3 are so close, the words that differ are the dangerous ones, and they hide inside sentences you otherwise understand completely. Between Spanish and Portuguese there is a famous small pile of these. Embarazada in Spanish means pregnant. The word that looks like it in Portuguese means embarrassed, which is the English meaning, so you get caught either way round. And there are others that come up constantly rather than occasionally. Spanish salsa is a sauce. Portuguese salsa is parsley. Spanish oficina is an office. Portuguese oficina is a workshop or a garage. None of these are disasters, but together they mean the second language is a discount, not a free gift, and people who assume otherwise told about 4 months in when they discover they have been half guessing. So the honest version of the discount is this. The second one costs you maybe half of what the first one did, not a tenth. That is still an extraordinary deal, and it is the single best argument for choosing any of these three over an unrelated language if you think you might eventually want two. So when is Spanish the wrong answer? Because for some of you it is, and I would rather say so than pretend this is a neutral video filmed by nobody. Italian is the right answer when there is something specific and Italian in your life. Family. A place you go every year. Work in food, in art, in music, in design, in history. Italian is a language people learn for love rather than for leverage, and it is very good at being that. If your reason is a feeling about a specific country, that is a better reason than any statistic in this video, and rich arguments should not talk you out of it. Portuguese is the right answer when Brazil is in your plans. Work, a partner, a move, or the culture pulling at you. In that case, Portuguese is not the harder option, it is the only correct one, and the fact that the beginner material is thinner is a cost worth paying rather than a reason to choose something else. And Spanish is the right answer in the case where none of the above applies. You want a second language, you do not have a specific country pulling you, and you would like the maximum number of people, films, songs, and countries per hour invested. That is not a romantic reason. It is the correct one for most people, and most people are in exactly that situation, even though almost nobody describes themselves that way out loud. There is a quiet embarrassment about choosing the popular option, as though picking the smaller language proved something. It does not. It just costs more for less, and the only person who pays is you. Let me show you what the material advantage actually feels like from the inside. 4 sentences, ordinary Spanish, no preparation. La serpiente vive cerca del río. Por la tarde busca un lugar con sol. El sol está caliente y la piedra también. La serpiente está muy contenta. There are thousands of hours of data available at every level for nothing. That is the thing the difficulty ranking does not measure, and it is probably the single biggest practical difference between these three. A ranking measures how hard a language is in a classroom with a teacher assigned to you. It cannot measure how hard it is to find the next thing to listen to on a Tuesday night when you have 20 minutes and no teacher, and that second question is the one that actually decides who gets there. So they are tied on difficulty. Spanish wins on reach and on material, Italian wins whenever there is an Italian reason, Portuguese wins whenever there is a Brazilian one, and whichever you pick first makes the next one much cheaper. I would like to know which of the three you are actually torn between, because it is almost never all three. It is usually two, and the reason for the second one is usually a person or a place rather than an argument, which is worth noticing, because if there is a person or a place involved, that has already answered the question, and the comparison you came here for was never really the thing deciding. And whichever way you go, do not spend another evening comparing them. Listen to 10 minutes of one of them tonight and notice whether you want to do it again tomorrow. That answers this better than any chart. There are a couple of videos here that follow on from this one. Take a few seconds and pick one.